Welcome back and thank you for staying with Morning Express. Exactly 8 a.m. Good morning from wherever you're tuning in from. We continue with the morning deliberations on some of the news making headlines, just focusing on politics right now and shifting focus to perhaps Ruto's new strategy to gain support from central governors. There's been exchange of words, and I'd like to begin with you, Warungu Mwangi. There's been exchange of words right now where governors have come under fire in one way or the other from the deputy president's camp. Most recently, perhaps Governor Nyoro and Kiraitu Murungi, who are from the Mount Kenya region. And I'm sure you've heard of Kiraitu's response to the scathing attack made by the DP during his tour in Meru County. What's your take? And perhaps why exactly are governors not crisscrossing the country with the deputy president? Yes, he has a number of members of parliament allied to him, but it's so easy to pick out the governors who are, sort of committing to his campaigns. What's your take on that?
Jesse, before I touch on what you have mentioned, let me weigh on what my colleague had done, the past discussion, and mentioned something about the money. In politics, there are three important things. One, strategy, second, resources, and the most important thing, numbers. And the resources, that's where now the money aspect fall. But it's good we discuss the bad net effect of use of money in our campaign. It has the real two bad net effect. One, if we continue dishing money the way the deputy president is dishing money, we'll make the 2022 election and campaign to be very, very, very expensive. Secondly, the most important thing, sometimes politics tend to be emotion. If you use 10 to 15 billion and you happen to lose, you may be attracted or be forced probably even to bring skills so that you can get that seat. That's where you hear people saying that you need that, you want to get that seat by crook and hooks. When you sleep, it pains you that you have used 10 to 15 or 20 billion and yet you have not achieved that seat. Coming to your question, politics in Kenya is organized around ethnics and majorly what I would call ethnics elite. It's good that the deputy president is bringing the economy from bottom to top. But in politics, you move from top to bottom. For you to reach the masses, you go down to the masses through what I would call their ethnic elite. So I don't think the strategy he's using to ignore the ethnic elite, and in this case, I'm referring to various governors who are the CEOs of various counties, may something that may come to haunt him. The most important thing is that he happened to be going with a member of parliament. Statistics has shown that 85 to 87% of the members of parliament never see the light of the day in terms of parliament. So I think he needs to re-strategize, and more so, you can't ignore governance. Governance comes with two strong aspects of politics. One, resources. You remember we had discussed about corruption. Most of them have been able to get a lot of money, Kenyan coffer. Secondly, what I would call structures. Most of the governors have structures down to the ward. They have their ward representative. So if a governor is on your side or is supporting you, he'll come with those two important aspects.
Okay, interesting. Suleiman, just come in, perhaps on your take, before we cross over to Okango, your take on why the deputy president has won over a couple of legislators, but when it crosses over to the governors, most of them are allied to President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And the DP has criticized them for sort of imposing Raila on the people of Central. We've heard of those words. Well, what's your view on that?
Yes, I think there are so many members of parliament, in this case members of the National Assembly and the Senate, who are now associated with the deputy president. A big number, a huge chunk, who have actually left President Uhuru's camp and Raila Odinga's camp. But Jesse, what I normally say is there is no single politician at the moment who will not want to be associated with the deputy president. Save for politicians from Nyanza, by the way. I'm so straight. the reason as to why the reason as to why the deputy president is not enjoying the respect and the support of governors from Central Kenya region is because of these are governors. There are so many governors in this country who have changed their political tunes. You know, they who have tried to dance to different political tunes. The moment you maybe change your political stand, there's normally a file around Kiambu Road, and I think something in us is unearthed. I assure you, just to watch closely, towards the general election, all these governors, especially from Central Kenya region, from Northeastern region, also from the coastal region, they will end up dancing to the tune of the deputy president or even other parties. It is because at the moment, if any of them tries to react in a different way, or if any of them openly supports a different political presidential aspirant, I think those files around Kiambu Road will be open.
So you believe the DPP is being used to settle political scores?
I'm not saying the DPP. I say it. These investigative bodies have most of the time proven non-independent. You know, you will see today Waiguru changing her political position. You know, her party position today. She declares to the people of Kenya that she is in support of a certain presidential candidate. Tomorrow, now you will see the entire EACC battle of investigators from EACC and DCIO raiding her offices. And I think these are the kind of fears that have been instilled in these governors. And actually, there are so many rumors of nighttime governors who are normally seen around Karen. That tells you, watch the space. As we go towards the election, you will see many of them will end up changing their political opinions and political parties.
Well, this governor's mentioned it as politics of hate. Do you view the statements made by the DP in line with such?
You see, they are so scared to an extent that they cannot even associate, they cannot openly associate with the DP. You know, the DP has so far talked of two governors. He spoke of Governor Kiraitu Murungi and the governor for Kiambu County. There are so many other governors in this country. And you know, let's look at the mathematics of it. How do you support and enjoy the support of members of parliament, hundreds who are running to hundreds, and you have so few governors? You know, the DP is on record as saying that time and again, while the governors ambao many support wamekuwa wakifuatiliwa. The DP actually openly declared that one time. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that looking at the kind of politics that the independent institutions have played, it is so unfortunate that this is a time that those independent bodies have been so misused and abused to an extent that a governor is so scared to declare his or her own position. Watch the space as we go towards the general election, many will end up declaring their support for the deputy president.
Okay, so Okango, is this all about self-preservation from where you sit?
First of all, I strongly disagree with my friend because, first of all, he initially said that the yellow fever chief is an institution. The politics of institutions, I mean, it's idolatry. You know that. People should not worship you. We are a free world. We are a free country that must have democracy within its structures. Number two, I have said more than once that the politics of 2022 is going to be the politics, or is the politics of unity. What we have been seeing the yellow fever chief doing, he has been going to regions, dishing out money, and my good friend lawyer there understands what it means to bribe the electorate. Because you cannot come with money and stash it in the public and say, you know, I'm giving you 2 million so that you go and do your business. In the flip side, you are expecting them to convert to your side. Number three, my colleague here, Warira, said 85% of those elected leaders do not come back. And if you go by numbers, if indeed the yellow fever chief had numbers, let's start from division revenue bill in the Senate. He failed. Let's go to the purge in the National Assembly and Senate. He didn't have numbers. He failed. Let's go to the Constitutional Amendment Bill. He failed. So you cannot claim numbers that you don't have. You can only claim of numbers that you have. The people that are surrounding the yellow fever chief are doing that so because currently they want prominence and they want support and facilitation to go and do their politics. A time will come when reality will hit them. And we have been saying from our end that form is different. The reason why form is different is because this election, politicians speak of the same thing, but they must do it different this time. Do it different in the sense that we are speaking about strengthening devolution and the rule of law. We are speaking about enhancing, institutions. We are speaking about inclusivity of young people and women. We are speaking about creating jobs for the people, not giving money. The people of Kenya don't want freebies. They don't want token. They want an environment where You can create your own wealth, you can create your own money, but not given 300,000 or 1 million people 300,000 to divide and then you fight among yourselves. That is only possible if you do things differently. That's why we are saying we must do things differently. And we know the gentleman has been talking about doing things differently. Lastly, Jesse, we must also be cognizant of the fact that as we go into this election, there are certain people, particularly from the yellow fever, that they have seen they are not going to get it. And what they can do is to seek sympathy. What we call sympathy addicts. The sympathy addicts are creating chaos deliberately. They are insulting other leaders. They don't even respect their fellow leaders so that they can seek sympathy. That one must be ignored. I want to urge the leaders that for one way or another have been insulted, have been dismissed, have been undermined, ignore, because the people of Kenya know where they are going. They know that the most important thing today is not just speaking about a model, but enhancing that model and being accountable to that model. The only sure and accountable model that has been tested, Jesse, is the model of devolution. Strengthening devolution, adopting the word, the smallest unit, as the primary unit of accelerated development, so that you start measuring development from the village, water, electricity, healthcare, and so on. That is the sure way of doing it. But when you come and tell Kenyans that in yellow fever, we are going to give you 100 billion so that you can create jobs, and it has no structure of measuring, it has no structure of evaluating, it has no structure of accountability, then that is a political gimmick that must be avoided like a disease. So we are saying that going forward, we must do things differently. We must adopt the formula different, because in adopting the formula different is the only sure way of achieving enhanced devolution, creation of jobs, fighting corruption. Some of these people are not talking about fighting corruption because they know.
Fred, let me ask you this, and perhaps Bashir would be short of asking you this as well. There are a couple of individuals who would say perhaps Raila Odinga is more in the government than in the opposition. So you're talking about structures. Why not use these structures to perhaps reach these masses that the DP is reaching to? When we talk about the Women Empowerment Fund, the Youth Fund, why not make it so clear or so accessible so that they can counter the narrative through the structures you're talking about?
Jesse, I like that question. William Ruto is in government. He is the principal assistant to the president. He is in the national executive. And therefore, the challenges of President Kenyatta are his challenges, which he's running away from. But the successes of President Kenyatta are equally successes, which he's enjoying. Raila Odinga, in my understanding, and others, Gideon Moi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Wetangula, and the rest, they're not in government. They are presidential aspirants as of today. They are not even candidates. They have been endorsed by their political parties to go and seek that high seat. Therefore, it is within their right to go out and seek the public support, which they have been doing. But the gentleman in the heart of the government, who has resources, who uses the government resources, has a government house, uses the government water and everything other than the oxygen that God has given him, cannot tell Kenyans that when given another 10 years, he will make things better. While the last 10 years, he has undermined his own government that he serves. He has disparaged his own leader. He has even called fellow leaders Matapeli. Jesse, let us be honest. The truth of the matter is this. This election will be won by people who value inclusivity, will be won by people who have respect for structures that are going to take money to the villages, not to take money to the market. You cannot take money to the market. You can take it to a village where the people in that ward can adopt it to accelerate development. That is what the form is different about.
All right. Let's bring in Warungu, and perhaps on the flip side as well, one would also beg to ask, Raila Odinga has mentioned anajoizo how corruption is actually being orchestrated within the government, nitaziziba. So why not do it now, since he's really close to the president? That would be a question on the flip side. Perhaps, Warungu, your take as we finalize.
I think my colleague Fred has mentioned Raila Odinga is not in government. What he has is a partnership with President Kenyatta, who is leading the government. The incumbency is with two people, one President Uhuru Kenyatta and Dr. William Ruto. It's very sad that Deputy William Ruto has decided to forsake the incumbency. In 2022, he'll be appearing as an oppositionist candidate, and it's the matter that he'll take in fully after 9th of August. But to say that Raila Odinga can be able to probably work on the corruption, I think he's not in government. What he's doing, he has a collaboration of bringing unity to all tribes of Kenya with his brother who is in government, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Okay, well noted. Suleiman.
You see, the people of Kenya in 2017 August woke up in the morning and voted for President Uhuru together with Deputy President William Ruto. But you see, we have the text of the Constitution and we have the reality. We have the practice that we can see on our day-to-day affairs as we live in this country. You know, we do not live outside Kenya. We all live in Kenya. We know the realities that we have appreciated so far. We know who is close to the president at the moment. We do know who cabinet secretaries pay a visit to with a view to maybe seeking his advice, I think, and interventions at certain points. We know who speaks for the state, you know, especially even with fuel prices. We know who tells us the government inside information such as whether or not fuel prices will be decreased or increased by April and all that. So you see, the deputy president, what has happened to him is his power has been taken away through backroom or backdoor dealings and it has been given to a third party. So we have a deputy president who just by the name of it, he is tagged as the deputy president. But in real sense or ideally, he is not the substantive practitioner of that office. And I think he has found himself a stranger in his own bedroom. And I think there are two things here that I want to point out. Number one, the DP has been so categorical on the fight against corruption. He has actually shared with Kenyans on his aspirations and visions with respect to how we would end up strengthening the dreams and the realities that were started by his predecessor, by the current president, President Uhuru. Because he keeps saying that the dreams and whatever President Uhuru stands for is what I will end up multiplying or doubling his efforts. The other thing that he has actually time and again talked about is how to alleviate poverty in this country and how to also eradicate corruption. In addition to this, what he says is, even as I await for you guys to elect me into the office of the president, at the moment, let me see how I can help you. He comes to your tour, he goes on a tour, meets the members of the public. He asks you what are the priorities that you need. He gives you certain amounts of money to see how it can help you at the moment. Because, as we speak, he is a stranger in his own government that he has co-founded with the sitting president. And I think that is an effort that Kenyans appreciate. On the flip side, we have the former prime minister whose ear the president does have. The president actually confides a lot in him. He's able to access all cabinet secretaries, make some serious critical governmental decisions at the moment. And I think there are serious things that the former prime minister can do at the moment by dint of the fact that he's associated with the sitting president, which he is not doing right. I think, let us not lie to Kenyans. What the DP is merely doing is, you know, Jesse, if I call a group of women groups of 21 women groups in Garissa County, let's say, and I give each and every one of them around 200,000, that is to empower them. You know, at the end of the day, they will end up having something to put on the table. Tell me, assume I'm a standard 6-year-old people, or I'm a standard 6 people. Convince me how that kind of funds will end up causing violence. You know, my colleague there spoke about emotions, you know, and all that. Devoid of emotions, someone somewhere is doing something. Away from that, you have institution, you have the National Police Service, you have the Criminal Investigation Unit that monitors all these things, you have the NCIC to crack down on hate speech and all that. I think let us appreciate the DP for what he is doing, for he is a stranger, and what he's doing is merely an effort, and that little effort Kenyans are actually feeling.
Just to interject you, Warongo also mentioned that this money, the politics of philanthropy, will make the elections expensive from where he sits. Aren't you concerned about your fellow young contenders who might want to throw in their hat in this particular race come 2022 and they don't have the funds? Won't we be locking them out?
Yes, Jesse, I come to Garissa County. I support the youth groups there with some funds. You know, how do you translate that to the 2022 elections? You know, there is something to do with an empowerment that you are making to a certain group of persons. You know, that level of empowerment is what, to that extent, is what we are looking at it at the moment. You know, they are reading the politics into it by saying these monies that are being given to these youth groups has something to, or is a reflection of the 2022 elections. That is for the members of those youth groups to make their own independent minds. You know, the members. You know what I keep saying? The voters shall have an opportunity to look at the visions of all these presidential contenders. They will end up asking themselves hard questions before they vote a certain person. At the moment, what I want us to say is, let us not read the politics of it. Let us appreciate the benefits of it. It is having a lot of benefits at at the moment. It is transforming the lives of our people,
Okay.
and we can see that. And I think Okango and my colleague have felt the testimony of that. If they have certain groups back there, they do appreciate the reality. But at the moment, let each and every single Kenyan do what he or she can to better the life of the other. With respect to the elections, the time shall come and each and every Kenyan shall make an independent decision as to who they shall vote, inshallah.
All right, benevolence. Anyway, let's finalize. Perhaps, gentlemen, 1 minute each, quite briefly, your final take as we conclude on our discussions today.
He may not take a minute.
Surely. Don't attack him. Okango, I'm here to defend you. Go on.
I think what Bashir is saying in trying to justify the yellow fever activities is what we would call hocus pocus. I mean, it's nothing. And again, I want to urge the people of Kenya. You know your leaders. You have been with them for the last 10 years. You know their challenges. You know their strengths. This election must be won on the basis of strengthening devolution. This election must be won on the basis of reviving the economy. This election will not be won on hate. This election will not be won on tokenism and, giving out money. As a matter of fact, the aspect of sustainability development, you cannot sustain handouts. Even if you were to empower 100 youths today, who are you with a vault of money that can sustain the entire country? You must strengthen it. You must put it in a legal framework. You must put it in a manner that the national collection comes and give a percentage that is sustainable to those groups that are vulnerable and help them. The Yellow Fever team are not saying that. I submit that as we go into this election, the first thing first, we must be peaceful, avoid hate, and conduct competitive politics based on ideologies. Don't go to other people's regions and start insulting them. They'll react. Please, we are all Kenyans, and at the end of the day, this country will remain for all of us. I wish the Kenyans good luck, but for the politicians, let's up our game and do the right thing, because it is through doing the right thing that we held accountable, and it is required of us to be accountable, not just meato.
Okay, over to you, Warongo Mwangi. Your final take, sir.
Jesse, you and I know that this election will not be won by use of money. There is what we call developmental politics. Unfortunately, the addition of money that is happening, just to answer my colleague straight to the face, has zero benefit. There is no an audit or any follow-up that has been done since the deputy president started issuing audition money, whether the money that he has dished has assisted anyone. Second, is good that we start preaching peace. We have a form of a platform of unity, and this election will be won by ideology, not necessarily the use of money.
Suleiman, your final say.
It is not in doubt that the youth of our country form the biggest block of voters, and I think we as the youth shall have the opportunity to make a decision that shall impact us for the subsequent 5 years. I think, in my view, at the moment, let us take advantage of those who are helping us. When the time comes, let us evaluate the manifestos come election, let us vote with our right mind and elect suitable leaders to those public offices, and we shall reap what we sow.
Okay, interesting. Well, gentlemen, all's well that ends well. There's no permanent bad blood in politics. Thanks for your input right here, gentlemen. Fred Okango, who's a political affairs commentator, Suleiman Bashir joining me right here in studio, advocate, and Warongo Mwangi, advocate as well. Well, if you're the youth generation, then I might say the future is bright. Asanteni sana. Anyway, allow us to perhaps take a short break right now as we shift focus to other matters in... Okay, I'm informed we should take this story perhaps